Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back to this week's episode of the Your Gray Matters podcast. I'm Jason here, of course, with my dad, Neil. Hello.
Hello, hello.
And today we've got, a timely topic. We have, there's been in the news a lot about housing and affordable housing or lack thereof, and what governments can do or are trying to do or might do or put in place for 7 whole years. But anyways, so we have a guest today that sort of dovetails with that, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'm really pleased to have Kevin Breitner back on. If you refer back to episode 15, Kevin taught us about property management. But as Jason just said, affordable housing, having enough homes, a place to go, it is huge news in this country, and so it should be. And at Your Gray Matters, we've done a lot of real estate podcasts. We want you to be educated. We've even looked at the financial end of things. Even number one, if you remember episode number one, is simply how to get equity out of your home and take advantage of that. Number two, how to become a real estate investor. But housing is the topic for today. And in fact, pre-construction housing. Think about it. Some of the places that people are going to live in are not built yet.
Yeah.
But you can buy them now. You can become an investor in them. Today, Kevin will talk to us about the highs, the lows, the things that you need to understand. And we have it on Your Gray Matters.
Excellent. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, and thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Neil from Your Gray Matters. Welcome back for another exciting episode. We're really excited to have Kevin Breitner back from Cressy. If you look at episode number 15, we had Kevin on a few weeks ago, a really good specialist in real estate. Whether you're an investor or you're looking for a new home, you want to talk with Kevin and Cressy. Kevin, welcome back to Your Gray Matters. Thanks for coming back on.
Neil, thanks for having me. Always nice to chat with you.
Yeah, listen, Kevin and I have known each other for years. We've made real estate teaching videos together. We've done some raising of money for development together. But Kevin's young, he's bright, and I know he doesn't have gray hair and he doesn't have no hair, and I might see a little gray in the beard coming out, but really an authentic specialist in real estate. Kevin, why don't you tell us about yourself and perhaps introduce everybody into Cressy?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. As mentioned, my name is Kevin Breitner, broker of the Cressy team with REMAX. And Cressy is an acronym for Complete Real Estate Solutions and Investments. And really, it's about building up the complete and the solution portion of our brand so that we can help our clients through whatever it is they're going through. The investment side is definitely something that we enjoy helping people with, because who doesn't like helping people make money with their money? And obviously, with the REMAX balloon and brand behind us, we help people move when that time comes as well. So we're here to service the real estate industry completely. We have specialists on our team that help with leasing, commercial. We even help, again, with people when they're buying and selling their primary residences. We're able, through different boards, to cover a nice area with our team as well, from downtown Toronto all the way down through the QEW to Niagara Falls, and some north on the 401 as well, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, down to Milton, etc. So we have a small team, but we specialize and are able to help everybody with our great white glove service. And that's what it's all about, making sure our clients are looked after. With the pre-construction and what's going on, it's interesting. I've been doing this now with REMAX for just over 11 and a half years. And about 8 years ago, I started concentrating on the pre-construction and investment. It was different. I liked it. And, at that point in time, not every agent was wanting to do it or thinking they can do it. And it was a differentiator for myself. So
Kevin, just so that I know that everybody else knows, thank you for all that. That's great. We're living in times where people with my colored gray hair are starting to wonder what to do with our homes. But it's not even the question of can we sell our home, although nowadays that is a question, but it's where do you go? And everywhere you look, the governments of all levels, the media, everybody's talking about housing. On Your Gray Matters, we're looking for miracles that exist that maybe people aren't aware of. And I asked you on today, just for what you said, ladies and gentlemen, getting involved in pre-constructed properties is really interesting. From the investor point of view, there's money to be made. But for seeing your new home go up and be constructed, it's not so easy. Sometimes the paperwork is hard to understand. There are lots of excellent real estate salespeople, but in pre-construction, you want to have a specialist like Kevin and his team because there's lots to understand. So Kevin, sorry that I interrupted you, but I just wanted the crowd to understand that we're talking about pre-construction today, a little bit different, and there's a number of areas. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn it back to Kevin, and go ahead, Kevin.
Thanks, Neil. And you made a great point there when you're talking about having a specialist. In Ontario, there's almost 80,000 licensed real estate agents now that can all technically transact and do the same thing for you. But I assure you, we are all very, very different from one another. And when we're talking about having that specialist, the example I often give to new clients when we're talking about working with us, because we do understand the pre-construction world, the paperwork is definitely different. The interaction with the builders or the representatives with the marketing teams that are selling these units for the builders are different. And there's nothing available on MLS or anything like that. This is all through connections and relationships and understanding the process to be able to get in at the right time of that sales cycle for you, whether it's very, very early on because you're an investor and you're not really caring about anything other than the return on your money in, or if you're an end user, especially like a senior, you guys really want to know where you're going. The end users need to know that the building is going to be complete before they're willing to put any money in, because they are going to need to know their timing and everything like that.
Exactly.
With what's going on in the housing currently, all ages are going through different things, but people later in life, that is their nest egg, their home. So it's what are we doing, how are we doing, and what's the best way to do it. We actually just last week, maybe 10 days ago now, met a new client who is downsizing from his bungalow into a condo and going through all of this. And we've worked with him through understanding his process and what he had to do to net the most amount of money from the sale, but also when he's buying something, what is he going to need? He's a single guy. He just needs a small little condo, right? He'd only used 4 major rooms in his house: his kitchen, his bathroom, his bedroom, his living room. Well, those 4 things are all in the condo as well. So it a transition there, but understanding it all is different for people when they're making that downsize. So getting back to pre-construction and the concept around it, if the plan is to downsize and to be a year or 2 years ahead, it's a great idea. It's a great way to buy early on in that project and build some equity for it. People do it with their kids going to school, for example. They buy something in Hamilton because their kid's going to go to McMaster, and they do it that way. And then their kid might not end up going to McMaster, but at least they still have that investment that then they end up doing something with later on. But again, when you're downsizing, you're looking for something more in the later process of the sales cycle, so it's closer to completion, so that you know that your move-in date is going to be X and not one day in the next 3 years, right? They're actually going to give you a specific date.
That's a big concern because we hear a lot about things not being finished on time and people have sold their home, and distress is a terrible thing at the best of times. So when you're older, it can be dangerous.
There's another one, the lining up of dates, the specialization, again, to understanding the delays in pre-construction, to know when they're going to have to get their house ready for sale, so that it's going to be, so that they're matching those 2 dates up. That way they don't own 2 properties at once, and they don't get stuck without owning a house at all, and then having to rent something or live in a hotel or whatever. So the example that I was going to get to about the specialist and why it is, and you'll completely understand why you want to work with someone like myself or someone on our team if you're buying pre-construction, is simply this: if you had a heart problem and you needed to see the best heart surgeon in Canada, but your brother was the best brain surgeon, would you ask your brother to operate on you, or would you ask him who you should talk to?
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, right? A lot of people know 3 or 4 real estate agents. And as I mentioned before, we can all do the same type of thing. But it's understanding what that person's specialty is, their niche, their experience, their expertise, and using that to help you make a smart, informed decision that's best for yourself. So again, with pre-construction, I love it in so many ways. It benefits so many different buyers, but they have to have that foresight for the future. Right, we need more roofs over our heads, right? Everyone needs a roof over their head, sorry, and we need more housing all across the province and even the country. So the more we build, it's going to get filled. You just have to know it's going to take 4 years or 5 years or whatever. So that's the investment side. On the, again, the resale, or not the resale side, the end user side, where you're going to be the one moving in and occupying the unit, there's different things that you have to understand there for the time you get to occupy versus the time you have to close on it and actually need your mortgage. All these different things happen in different structures of payment for the unit. They're all similar, but every builder is different. So we have to explain to you so that you guys understand exactly what your structure is going to be, when you're going to need money in the bank. And there's a lot that goes into it. You know, I met a client at BizCon, actually, Neil, if you remember John Reiser.
Sure.
So one of the other exhibitors there, she came up to me. John told her she should come talk to me, and she was complaining that she knew the building she wanted. She can find the unit, but she can't seem to get the unit that she wanted for her daughter to go to university up by York University, the new buildings, the Keeley condos. Anyways, she was talking to me, and I looked through some stuff and called up April, who is a girl that was selling those units, and we got her the exact unit that she wanted. Think about her through months of frustration, not being able to get something, to her daughter starting school in a few more months and not thinking she's going to have a place to stay, to then meeting me, and within, I guess it was less than 3 weeks, pen was to paper, and she had that unit. So you know, it was nice to have that connection. That's part of this piece too, is being able to
Well,
units.
having a specialist, what you're saying, someone who knows who to get through all the barriers that sometimes maybe don't exist, but it appears that they are existing because other people, including myself, may not know how to get through them. And that's what you did for this lady. And that's terrific. Yeah, I love specialists. We do see specialists medically for sure. So why not in the way that we're going to live and invest our money? When I first got into real estate and investing, and most of you know, that's why I originally got my mortgage agent license, because I wanted to learn how to invest in real estate. And great course, by the way, folks. Every kid in high school should have to take the mortgage course. That's my feelings for today. But Kevin, when you and I used to raise money for some of these pre-construction properties, that was a great opportunity too. We may not have had any interest in actually moving into that property, but you could invest your money because the developers are quite often looking for cash for construction funding, or just paying to get the paperwork done, just to get the licensing and the approvals. Does that still exist in your world? And can you touch on that?
Yeah, that's another way to invest for sure. So when you're thinking about the construction of a property, there's actually investors that make money all throughout the process. So if you start with raw land, right? There's investors that will buy land which you cannot get a mortgage on, right? Or if they buy a mall that they're then going to redevelop, or whatever they buy, that's the first state of investors. They're buying the property, they're then going to turn into something. And then they're going to create what's called a site plan approval.
Right.
An SPA, where they have then the idea, the concept that they're going to be able to build. That's normally when they sell it to the next person. Okay, the next investor is then coming along with the site plan approved property, knowing that they can then build what has been approved already by the city through this site plan. And then they're making there, and then there is where investors start getting in again as well, where in the development, investors can get in, like you're mentioning, where they're giving, you know, 50 to X amount of dollars. 50,000 normally is the minimum that they do this
Right.
with, and upwards, and they get a flat rate of return, you know. So you're involved with the developer because they need funds at the beginning until they get to construction financing.
Wow.
The builders cannot get construction financing until they have 70% of their units sold and 15% of those sales collected. Once they have that chunk of money, the bank then looks at them as a viable project and says, okay, you can start going now. Here's the rest of your money, and you can start coming out of the ground. That's when the construction can start. They can dig a hole in advance, but they can't start coming out until they've hit those targets, the 70% and the 15. Now those numbers fluctuate a little bit, whether it's 65 or 75%, but on average, it's 70% that the banks are looking for until they can get their construction financing. So they need money along the way, and that's where you're talking about here, where investors will get an 8% return or whatever, like that flat rate of return, something in those ranges again every
Sure, and it can be cash flow and it could be an equity payment at the back end when the property's up. But I think Kevin has just given you the reason to speak to a Kevin, because I don't think that most people know or even have to know how the development process works. But when you're going to invest in a construction property or consider buying one of the units, knowing where they are in the development process is really important. Do they have permits? When are they going to start to construct? Do they have the construction funding? Do they even have the licensing done, which also called permits? And that's where someone like you really comes in, Kevin, because we don't have to know what makes a car go. We just want to buy a car and drive it and make sure that it's safe. It's not much different for buying a home, especially if it hasn't been built yet. Would you agree with that, Kevin?
100%. I won't mention any names, but I know of a project that was 26 floors, and as they were selling those units, they ran out of some money, so they started to sell floors 27, 28, and 29. But if you've sold 26 as the penthouse and now you're building more floors on top, how does that work? Where does that go to those people? Who gets juggled around? But even more importantly, they didn't have their approvals for the first 26 floors that they were selling, let alone the next 3 floors. So that created a whole mess, and that builder went through an interesting situation, and I believe they actually sold it to somebody else to get out of that mess.
And I think that that's the caveat. I mean, you can, without a professional like Kevin, and I'm not just promoting Kevin, with all due respect, Kevin, but you need that professional. Brain surgeon, heart surgeon is correct, because we've heard of horror stories where development should buy in and 10 years later you're still trying to figure out when you move in. It has happened. The construction funding is very specific. Like you said, a lot of things have to be completed before. As a purchaser or an investor, you can find out where that is, because if it does go the wrong way, unfortunately, there's not much to unravel it. So that's why it's very smart to have you to navigate the way before. Ladies and gentlemen, the property's not up yet. Doesn't mean it's bad. Could be perfect, but you want to know about challenges prior. I know of one myself that I was involved in where the city actually gave all the permits. They were getting ready to construct, and then the city decided, oh, we have to redo the sewers. Everything's on hold for 3 years. And that was a real big question mark about the city governance. But the thing is, most of them work out well, I imagine, and that's where you come in.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, it's definitely different than resale. It truly is. And even with resale, there's lots of things to know and information to gather before we make our decisions, right? Everybody understands that resale world a little bit more because it's built. You can walk through it, you can touch it, it's tangible. Where in pre-construction, you're really buying something off of imagery, right? 3D renderings that a computer has created and floor plans, I sold one unit to one lady one time. We actually went into this builder. They use this floor plan. It's a very popular 1-bedroom plus den. So they actually have that floor plan in all of their buildings. They just named that floor plan something else for that building, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I took her into one that was built, so she could already see it. It was up for lease, but I was able to get in and I knew the floor plan, and I could say, this is how your unit's going to feel, how you're going to be able to live in it. She was an older lady, and it was definitely hard for her to look at a floor plan and be like, well, where would my couch go? Would it fit? And it's tough for people to see that. That's why her walking in that space physically was a game changer to her. And that's why with technology, what they're doing with the 3D renderings now and video walkthroughs and the virtual reality glasses and the augmentation, buying pre-construction in the future is going to be similar to resale. You're going to be able to walk through it before you buy it, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, we're here to go through everything so that you understand, right? It's whatever you're purchasing, you need an exit strategy. If it's for yourself or if it's for an investment, you have to have that plan. What are we doing this for? What are we buying it for?
Yeah.
There's different things that have HST implications.
Is that right? Huh?
Yeah, so the government gets their piece of everything, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But if you buy something and it's your primary residence, right, and you're moving into it, the HST is included in that purchase price, which really means the builder pays it. If you're using it as an investment and you rent it out, right, you pay the HST, but because you're renting it out with a 1-year lease, there's a process that we can go through and you will get that money back.
Wow, that's terrific to
60 to
know.
90 days. Yeah, it's
that's
great.
good. That's good.
And you know what people, and people don't know that either. I was speaking with this a couple of years ago. I was speaking with one of my TD mortgage reps, a very smart guy, been with the bank for now, it'll be over 30 years, close to 35 at this point. But when I told him this, he goes, "No, that's not true. I don't know that." And I go, just because you don't know something doesn't mean
That
something
doesn't mean
isn't true,
that.
right? And he ended up saving a few $1,000s once he went back, because you actually had a couple of years to go back to rectify that, and he went back and he got his money back. But again, there's people that we work with that do that HST rebate. It's not something that we do, but it is something that we know you can get back if you do everything properly. I spoke to a young gentleman the other day who's bought in the Illumina condos here in Burlington. He's moved in an occupancy stage, which means he's living in the unit. He's paying a fee. The fee he's paying is his portion of maintenance fees, property taxes, and his portion of the builder's loan still outstanding, the interest that is.
Oh boy.
That's what he's paying for his occupancy fee. He doesn't have a mortgage yet. He doesn't technically own it yet, but he has to pay it. And he was talking about selling it. And I had to explain it to him that if you sell it now before it closes, you'll be paying HST because you told the builder you were moving into it, and now you're not. You're selling it as an investment. So they're not going to pay that. So he has to close on it and wait a couple of months until he can sell it and not have to pay HST and do everything properly to go through those channels. So
expertise.
Yeah, he bought this 4 years ago with another realtor, right? I wasn't involved. He bought it with another realtor. I don't know what information he was given at that time, but he didn't know when I spoke to him just the other day about how he can go through this and benefit from everything. So
well, let's be clear. What you do, sorry to interrupt, but what you do is you deep dive on everything for the people, because we all think that we can do good enough research on a developer, on the builder, on Kevin Breitner, on whoever's involved. But people like yourself, in addition to having a lawyer, you need a lawyer when you do real estate transaction. And just like your analogy of the brain surgeon and the heart surgeon, I encourage my clients, if they're doing real estate, to get a real estate lawyer who has a history of it and a specialty. I work closely with one in Hamilton, and he's really a specialist in real estate. That's the law that he does. Well, people are coming to you and other specialists, Kevin, for the very same reason, because as individual investors or buyers, we don't necessarily know how to do proper research. We don't know who to turn to. And as you've just mentioned very eloquently, on the buyer side or the investor side, there could be a tremendous opportunity, but I've always believed that you have to delve deeper than what the promotional material says. No disrespect to the promotional material. So sorry if I cut you off, but I just want people to understand more. It's a really big decision, but it's a really, really potentially terrific opportunity in pre-construction. Like I said, I've been involved in the investment side, and it has highs and lows, and you have to understand, and you need a person like yourself and your lawyer who knows how to research these things. Sorry that I interrupted, but that was my way of saying I like what you're doing for people, because it has to be done, and not everybody can do that.
And just to go even back to what you just said there, with real estate lawyer, we use a lawyer obviously for all of the transactions that we do, and there's a couple that we work with, one that we work with more than the rest, and there's one that I refer all of the pre-construction deals to, because he's actually a pre-construction investor himself as well. So he knows what he's looking for, right? I'll be honest, when you buy pre-construction, the agreement of purchase and sale is 150% built in the builder's favor. It is built by their lawyer to protect them and make sure everything's that way. As buyers, we have to make sure we're understanding that contract, what our obligations are, and doing anything we possibly can to protect ourselves and make sure that we know our numbers, like maybe capping the fees, the development charges and stuff like that, or working out the different payment structure, or whatever it is that we need to do. We can organize something a little bit differently, but most of that is what it is, and we just have to agree to it and understand what our obligations are to adhere to that contract, because if you don't, we're the ones that lose as the buyers. The builders are not going to lose. So, and then just to that point, sorry, with the lawyers, the agreement of purchase and sale is about that thick when you buy pre-construction, and it's only about 8 pages when you buy resale. So you're paying a lawyer the same amount of money to do the same job. Technically, they're closing on a real estate transaction. If you're paying a regular real estate lawyer that does resale all the time, and he's used to looking at that 8-page contract, and now you hand him a 250-page agreement of purchase and sale with disclosures and disbursements and all the different condo specs that are going to be there, he's not going to have a clue what he's looking for, what he's reviewing, and he's going to skim through it, and you're going to miss it. I'm very sure that my lawyer doesn't read every sentence, all those 250 pages either. But I do know that he knows what to go to, what to look for, and what we can possibly change, or what can possibly affect us if we miss it or don't understand it properly.
So what you're saying though, if you're going to be buying a property and you have to do this research, having a proper lawyer, and this is no disrespect to all the other lawyers, but again, you're talking about a specialty lawyer for this pre-construction. This is not a place to cut costs. You want to have someone who knows what the heck they're talking about and can protect you, and you have protection if the lawyer makes a mistake, God forbid. These are all important things for you to take part in. Absolutely, no question.
And here's a great thing about that. Our commission is not paid by the buyers. Our commission is paid by the builders, right? So we're doing all this work for you for free, right? In theory, you're not paying us, the builders pay us. And another good way to think about this is, because I know I've been there, I'm not a car person. I don't know much about a car. Neil, you made the example earlier about, I know that it has 5 wheels, right? The 4 on the ground and the one I steer with. And as long as everything's working.
And there's one in the trunk too, just so you know.
On both cars, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not a car guy, so I don't know what it is. I need to know whatever it is that I know. So I went to a Ford dealership or whatever, you go to buy a car, and I'm sitting at the table, and on the other side of the table is the Ford dealer, and I'm here, me, regular guy. I know for sure at the end of that deal, no matter how good of a deal I think I got, I didn't know everything. He was smarter than me, and I feel like I could have got a better deal, but I got something done. Well, I know that if I could walk into that same Ford dealership, sit down and have a Ford dealer on the other side, and then a guy that used to be a Ford dealer sitting down on my side of the table, making sure we knew exactly what was going on, understanding it, there'd be no way I'm walking away from that table now thinking I didn't get the best I could have got. I knew everything and understood everything thanks to my guy I had on my side of the table, not just the guy who's telling me what I need to know, right? Or he's telling me what he has to tell me, not what I need to know.
Yes.
Right. And that example too goes for when you're sitting with a builder, the builder's sales reps. Like, you can go in at the end of a sales process, right? Not at the beginning, at the launch. They don't deal with public then, but once they get later on down the sales cycle and an end user walks in and they're selling builder X is selling 123 Main Street, and you want to buy a unit there, you can go in and you can talk to that builder's representative without anybody on your side, and you can get something done. But that builder's representative is not telling you what you need to know. He's telling you what he has to tell you, right? He's going to talk to you about HST, but he's not going to give you all the explanations about it. He's just going to say, if you're moving in, it's included in, and if you're not, it's going to be added on, right? So then people are gonna try to say, oh yeah, then I'm moving in for sure, right? The builders have gotten smart and they've figured that out when people are telling the truth and when they're not.
Mhm.
But with everything that we're saying here, really is if you're going to spend a few $100,000 on something, you should definitely have somebody advising you to do so. And it's better to have somebody that has done it before many times and understands it inside and out so that they can inform you so that you can make the best decision possible for yourself. Right. Like, and anything that we do, I like to say that I'm a real estate consultant. I advise, I guide, I consult, I show pros and cons to everything because with everything in life, there are pros and there are cons, right? And we got to figure out what makes the most amount of sense. You know, with every floor plan, people ask me all the time, is it better to get a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom? Well, that depends. Is it a 2-bedroom and 1 bath, or is it a 2-bedroom and 2 bath? Is it 2 bedrooms where they're side by side, or is it 2 bedrooms that are on the opposite side of the unit? Because now I can rent those to 2 guys or 2 girls, but most people don't want to have a sharing wall if they're renting it out. Now you're really
Yeah,
only looking for a couple, right?
that's
So just your renter pool is different. It changes when you're doing different things. So all these types of things we go over and we review as someone's looking to buy a floor plan, right? Well, what's the difference in $20,000? It's a lot of money, yes, but it's a very small amount of money in your payment. But that could be between this floor plan and this floor plan, and the better one might not be the expensive one, might not be the cheaper one. We don't really know, you
yeah.
know. And then you
So
get
Kevin,
into stuff like balcony and sun exposure and
oh my
whatever
God.
else you're looking for, what type of floor you want to be on, what's going to rent out sooner, what's going to make us the most amount of money. If I'm, how long am I going to be paying that occupancy fee? If I'm on a lower floor, right? Because we build from the ground up, obviously. So if there's 60 stories and you're on the 5th floor, you're going to wait until they've done all 60 floors until you're going to get your mortgage. So you're going to be paying an occupancy fee for a very long time.
Yeah,
But if
this
you're
is
an investor,
wow.
but if you're an investor on that, here's the thing: if you have an assignment or if you have a clause that you're allowed to lease it out during occupancy, right? You're now getting market rent for that unit, but you don't have a mortgage yet, so you're only paying your occupancy fee. So you're probably cash flowing $1,000 to $2,000 more than you're going to for the rest of the time every month. So it's a great way at the beginning for an investor to make some extra money.
So
You know,
Kevin, based on all that, ladies and gentlemen, all at Your Gray Matters, we talk about miracles that exist, but you may not be aware of them. This is a miracle because this is a solution for you to make money if you're looking to make money, to get involved in pre-construction, to find a new home the way that you want. And again, you have a specialist like Kevin and his team who can walk you through all of these different areas. And it's important to know. I mean, I now understand even myself, Kevin, much more of what you do. And I'm glad that you're doing it. I really am. Kevin, I want to thank you for this, and I really appreciate what you're doing with Cressy. Ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned the previous episode with Kevin, number 15, which is on property management, and I would really suggest strongly that you watch that podcast too. All of ours are good, but Kevin's number 15, if you're looking at property management, real estate, is excellent. Kevin, I want to thank you. Just tell me again, how can people find you? And we'll post this info for you.
best way to get me is right there, cressy.ca. That's our website. It'll point you to the property management. It'll point you to pre-construction. It'll connect you with somebody on our team. That's the best way to connect with us today, would be at cressy.ca. And rhymed. But no, you can also call me on my cell, 647-801-4425, or email at kevin@cressy.ca. But no, reach out, here to help, love to chat. And if I can share anything that'll help you make a smart decision down the road, I'm here to do so.
Well, thanks for that. And I just got to ask you one other very important question, unrelated to this topic, but Kevin and his family have a tremendous history in baseball. I mean, just look at the size of the guy, for God's sakes. But Kev, I got to put you on the spot and just say, what do you think of our Blue Jays? Do they have a chance for after season play?
Well, I'm hopeful. Right now they are in a playoff spot. So I think the numbers are right now they have to win 6 of their next 10, and they should be in. And they're playing a whole bunch of teams that aren't very good. So This season has not been a fun one to watch, that's for
Oh
sure.
my, oh my, I wasn't gray before it started. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? No, I wasn't. No.
There is.
That's why I wear the hat all the time. It covers all my gray hair. You just see it when I don't shave. But
Kevin, thanks a lot. Bless your heart. Everybody, will post Kevin's info for you. Thanks for being on Your Gray Matters, Kevin. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, we'll see you again next week with another great topic. Thanks for watching.
thanks, Neil.
Take care, Kev.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Your Gray Matters podcast. The Your Gray Matters podcast was created by Neil Silvert and Jason Silvert, written and hosted by Neil Silvert, edited by me, Jason Silvert, and produced by Neil Silvert and Jason Silvert. Please follow us on any major podcast platform, watch us on YouTube, like and subscribe, and email us at yourgraymatterspod@gmail.com with any questions or feedback. Thanks for listening.
Views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Your Gray Matters podcast. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The Your Gray Matters podcast name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.